I think really the biggest reason why I wanted to talk about this article is because it just made me feel like, what the hell am I actually doing? Hola chula! Thank you so much for clicking onto this video. And if you are new here, well then, hi. Hello, my name is Kai. And if you're coming back to my channel, well then, it's freaking awesome to see you, babe. Here on my channel, I aim to share my experience as a person who has left the Jehovah's Witnesses organization and what it was like to grow up in a high-control Christian cult. We talk a lot about what goes on in Watchtower's culture and how they employ these mind control tactics onto their members to be able to reinforce their beliefs and keep them afraid and keep them isolated. We've seen a lot of that play out within the material that we've reacted to. Quite frequently on my channel, we watch these JW Lifetime movies and we all love them so much, but really, ultimately, the goal of those videos is to give us a broader window into what it is truly like to be a Jehovah's Witness person. One of the biggest challenges that I have with those videos is having evidence to support the claims that I'm making in that reaction. Obviously, we're watching a movie. I don't have time to go dig up 3 articles from 1975, 1989, and 1991. Okay? Like, I just don't have time. But today, I think that fortune shines upon us because Watchtower has just so graciously published a Watchtower article that is just so quintessentially Watchtower. And I would like to share that with you and explore just how manipulative and controlling and all-consuming this organization truly is, and you'll see it for yourself in black and white. So stay tuned because things are about to get scandalous.
Can I get your name and where you're from, if you don't mind?
I'm Kai.
Kai, can I get spelling for you?
Straight out of Dogtown, K-A-I.
On January 22nd, 2023, which was yesterday for me, Jehovah's Witnesses all over the country, all over the world, perhaps, sat through a study of this Watchtower article entitled, "Let Nothing Separate You from Jehovah." And that sounds like pretty regular Christian beliefs. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're talking about Watchtower here, so something that seems rather innocent can become insidious very fast. The article starts out asking us, how do we draw close to God? And like you would draw close to anyone, you would talk to them, or in this case, you would pray to them, or you would try to learn things about them, or in this case, you would read the Bible to learn more about God in order to strengthen your relationship and connection with Him. Well then, the article goes on to say that the more you know about God, the more that you trust in God, and therefore, the more you trust in His organization, going so far as to say that the more we trust Him, the less likely we are to abandon His organization. But this article wants us to be aware of the ways that Satan could undermine our trust in Jehovah, our trust in His organization. Fun fact, the word organization appears about 30 times in this one article. It's been made painfully obvious through the media that we've consumed from Watchtower that Satan can employ just about anyone or anything in order to drive you away from the organization. He could use playing on an after-school sports team. He could use a nice girl in your math class, some guy you've never met at a bar before. He could use your longtime best friend. So yeah, Satan is really not above taking those low blows, and he absolutely is seeking you out at all times. That is what you are taught to believe and what you are taught to think as a Jehovah's Witness. So when they say, what are some obstacles that Satan could throw our way? Well, Satan is being used as a figurehead for pretty much any other aspect of your life or society. The article says that to avoid a disruption of your belief or your trust in God and His organization, then you need to maintain your spiritual routine, which I swear to God, we've heard that at least a few times. As a Jehovah's Witness, you are given many chores, many activities to keep you busy throughout the entire month. And then you think about that month after month after month, year after year, that's your entire life, baby. Your entire life that you're being given busy work, because if you're ever unattended for a singular second, then you might start to think differently. An object in motion stays in motion. Also in this section about maintaining your spiritual routine, they cite the example of Shirley. Consider how doing so helped Shirley, a sister in Papua New Guinea, when she faced hardships. Shirley's family was poor and at times struggled to obtain enough food. A relative tried to undermine her trust in Jehovah. He said, "You say that God's Holy Spirit is helping you. But where is the help? The family is still poor. You're wasting your time preaching." Shirley admits, "I asked myself, does God care about us or not? So I immediately prayed to Jehovah and told him everything that was on my mind. I kept up with my reading the Bible and our publications, and I continued to preach and attend meetings." She soon began to realize that Jehovah was looking after her family. Her family did not go hungry, and they were happy. Shirley says, "I felt that Jehovah was answering my prayers. If you stick to your spiritual routine, you too will not allow hardships or doubts to separate you from Jehovah." While I am very glad to hear that Shirley's family did not go hungry, I have a lot of questions as to how that even happened. All it said was that Shirley kept on in her spiritual routine. She kept reading her Bible and reading the Watchtower, and her family just didn't go hungry. But we're not told how. Did she get a job? Did she get assistance? Did she marry into a wealthy vampire family? We need to know. And Watchtower's never going to tell you exactly how she didn't starve, because they want you to make the unspoken connection that all she had to do was be faithful and stay in the Watchtower, and she was taken care of. Shirley's immediate response to the slightest question of her belief and her actions, her immediate response to that was to dive further deeper into her faith. She immediately turned around and she started praying and started reading everything all over again. This repositioned her back in her faith, back into the group. Let's move on to paragraph 8 under the subheading, "When responsible brothers are mistreated." This is the paragraph that made me want to come in here, turn my camera on, and say a billion things that would have gotten my channel taken down. But, thank God we're not doing that. I don't know. I guess there's still time. By means of the media and social networks, our enemies spread lies or misinformation about responsible brothers in Jehovah's organization. Some brothers have been arrested and charged as criminals. The first century Christians faced a similar situation when the Apostle Paul was wrongfully accused and arrested. How did they react? Okay. So yeah, some brothers are arrested and charged as criminals, and I have to wonder what a majority of those people would be charged for. It just escapes me. It's just on the tip of my tongue. Those men are predators. Those men are criminals. Could a Jehovah's Witness be charged for something else? Yes, of course, like anyone else. But majority, what are most of them being arrested for? Of course, we have to remember where this persecution is coming from and why it's happening to us, because as you know, it's always only happening to us. No other religious organization has ever been persecuted ever in the history of ever. Hello. Paragraph 10. All those desiring to live with godly devotion in association with Christ Jesus will also be persecuted. So we should not be surprised that Satan targets responsible brothers in his attacks. His intent is that such attacks will break their integrity and intimidate us. Continue to support your brothers and loyally stick to them. There are some parts of this world where, yes, the Jehovah's Witnesses are an oppressed people. They're considered to be a radicalized group, and therefore their religious practices, their beliefs are outlawed. They're not able to freely believe, and I don't like that. I don't like that either. I don't like that there are some people who are having their right to believe whatever they want being suppressed. But at the same time, that's really not happening. That's not happening here. It's not happening here. Like, please, co-parter. These men were only they're so responsible. They're so responsible. They're asking people to support criminals who were put in a position by your organization to be able to hurt more families, more children. But support those people. Show them love. They deserve your love and support and forgiveness. But certainly not their disfellowship victims, who we disfellowship for having immoral sexual activity. Moving on. When we are ridiculed. Okay. Unbelieving relatives, workmates, or schoolmates may ridicule us for our preaching work or for living by Jehovah's high moral standards. This is good. They may say, I like you as a person, but your religion is too strict and out of touch with reality. Some may criticize us for how we deal with disfellowshipped ones, saying, how can you call yourself a loving person? These are all valid questions, by the way. Absolutely valid. Comments like these can plant seeds of doubt in our mind. We may begin to wonder, is Jehovah expecting too much of me? Is his organization too restrictive? If you are facing such a situation, how can you stay close to Jehovah and his organization? You can do that by being determined to uphold Jehovah's standards. They said that there might be people in our individual lives, our workmates, friends, schoolmates, relatives, they might get us to question our beliefs. Are my standards too high? Is the organization too restrictive? And their answer to that is to just keep going, just double down. Just don't even take a second to ponder that. Don't ask yourself any introspective questions. Just insist that you are correct and that there's absolutely no other way to live your life. So when someone makes a salient argument against your worldview, your answer is to double down. And then they cite the example of Job, which if you're not familiar with the story of Job, it's pretty terrible. There's this guy, his name is Job, and he has a pretty good life. He's got a wife, he's got 10 kids, he's got lots of farm animals, and he's a really happy guy. He loves God. He's always talking about how much he loves God, and then one day Satan and God are having a chat, as they so often do, I guess, and yeah, God is like, you look at Job, Job will do anything for me. Job loves me. He fucking worships the ground that I walk on. And Satan's like, oh yeah, prove it. And God is like, okay, I'm gonna strike him with illness, and all of his animals are gonna die, and all of his kids are gonna die, and his wife is gonna want to leave him, and all of his friends are gonna make fun of him, and he's gonna get these big ugly sores all over his body and be in excruciating pain all the time for the crime of loving God so much. That's who Watchtower wants you to be like. You should be so long-suffering and so excited to be put under turmoil, because it means that God is testing your love, because he knows that you will never leave him. Isn't that so nice? Isn't that so not abusive at all whatsoever? Then the article says, have you not, time and time again, seen that Jehovah's standards are right and that they benefit you? Have you not seen, time and time again, that Jehovah's standards are right and that they have benefited you? This is a question that was written to elicit a certain response. It is what you would call a leading question. It's something that you would also do if you were trying to sell someone a vacuum. Oh, wouldn't you say that you actually track a lot of dirt into your house with your shoes and your animals, of course? Have you not seen the dust accumulating in your carpet? Yes, I have. Well, then, yes, you would agree that you are someone who would benefit from using a vacuum cleaner. Don't you agree? Yes. Do you see what I mean? So if you set up a question in that way, then it almost makes it impossible for the person to refute that and to have any answer beside that. So of course, yes, they want you to remember that there are many instances where Jehovah's high standards, or really Watchtower's high standards, kept you safe or benefited you in some way, so that you won't think about the 100 other ways that they're stifling you and making you feel miserable and depressed all the time. I love it. Honestly, I love it. This is so clever. And then it goes right into be determined to uphold those statements. So it's a leading question right into a command. They've got someone to positively affirm in their head, and therefore the next command is all in, all good, let's go, because they have already said that affirmative yes. And now they're willing to accept whatever you say next to them, because you put them in that position with a leading question. They finish the article by saying, Satan wants us to be intimidated, and he wants to take our trust away from Jehovah and his standards and his organization. But then they go on to say, Jehovah will never abandon you. Seen his organization. Because this is an organization that will absolutely abandon you. And that is what I have had to constantly remind myself for a long time. The core foundation of their belief system is unloving and inhumane. Again, I need you to remember that Satan is just a device that can be interchanged with anyone or anything that Watchtower deems to be distracting you from your spiritual journey or your relationship with the organization, or anything that could potentially cause you to question your beliefs. So that could be literally anything. That could be having a friend at school, or that could be going to college. That could be accepting a new job. That could be the difference between like barely making it by and then actually being able to like take care of your family. That's like the stakes are that high, actually, literally, because of the way that they make people think and the way that they have made people so afraid to experience anything that makes them uncomfortable or challenges their worldview in any sort of way. And that kind of conservative thinking is entirely based in fear and shame. And all you're able to do is constantly re-indoctrinate yourself so that you don't have to deal with any of those uncomfortable thoughts that might come from an outsider's perspective, teaching you to reject any criticism against the organization that might arise, that you might get word about, even when there are predators being brought to task about their horrible crimes. You're supposed to just turn and look the other way and then actually go a step further and love and support that person if ever you were in that position. It's just really disgraceful. Nothing has made me so upset like this particular article in a long time, and I think because it is a study edition of the Watchtower, which means definitely certainly my parents, my whole family, sat through this study, and this is completely just meant to make them afraid and anxious about anything that challenges how they think or how they feel about the organization. Has made them more fretful about staying in their spiritual routine and not letting anything deviate from the norm. And it's just inculcated in them more reason to reject actual legitimate criticism levied against their organization. And that friggin' scares the hell out of me. I don't like it. It makes me unsettled. That's just my opinion, but it's completely unhinged. It's unhinged. You're constantly supposed to be seeking out, sussing out satanic tactics all around you all the time, constantly. And the only place that you're safe is in the Kingdom Hall. Can you imagine even that association alone, if you're always taught that everywhere you are when you're not at the Kingdom Hall is a place where you could be ensnared by a trap that Satan has put to take you away from the organization. Can you imagine that, living with that constant fear every single day, day in and day out, that you wouldn't just dive deeper and deeper into your beliefs if that's truly the only place where you felt like you were at peace? This is fucking dangerous. And it made me so mad. And I think really the biggest reason why I wanted to talk about this article is because it just made me feel like, what the hell am I actually doing? It felt like I've never felt so like cut off at the knees more, and just like that 10 minutes of reading through that watchtower that I haven't in a long time. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Because I have more things to lose than I have to gain. I'm risking that my family might never talk to me again. And then articles like this just make it worse. Because I'm that relative. I'm that relative that's like putting the doubts in your head. I'm that person that you should be afraid of. Because Satan is corrupted my mind. And I'm the only purpose that I serve in your life is to detract you from the organization. And it's so frustrating. I stand back sometimes and I realize like how huge they are and how small I am. And I get really like discouraged. And I think like, well, what good could I actually do? Does it even matter? Even if, someone was in there and they were questioning and they heard this and now it's just all undone, right? I think that's my natural response, because I think that's just been my experience with the organization, is that when things like this come out, people get more deeply rooted in their belief. But I'm trying to be more optimistic about it. Like, maybe there will be a line for some people that Watchtower just crosses their line and sets off that alarm, like it does in my head, like it does probably in your head actually watching this video. But for someone who is truly in it and believes it wholeheartedly, this is a rallying cry. This is something to be emboldened by. Is it triggering? Kind of, yeah. When I read it, I got really upset the first time I read it. But I'm really glad that I took some time to like sort of process how I really thought about it, so that I could say something like halfway intelligent instead of just being like, no, I don't like it. Yeah, I mean, my feelings are real, but still, it's just like, what good is that actually gonna do? But yeah, that was just my thought, just my opinion, and just my video. So, if you like this video, then you can leave it a like. And if you like me, well then you can subscribe to this channel, where I will be talking about whatever I want, whenever I want, because this is my channel. And that's what we do here, baby. So subscribe. And as always, chulas, I hope that you are having a wonderful, beautiful, amazing rest of your day.